Good morning, everybody. It's freaking cold out. I think it's 40 degrees, and I'm not gonna be able to walk soon. If I'm being honest, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Probably be in the car. I've been thinking a lot about, well, a couple of things. I've been writing a lot about trust, vulnerability, intimacy, and how that works with relationships, specifically with God, but in all realms. I have struggled a lot with prayer. I didn't get it. I was heavy on reason and logic and books and facts. But the realm of prayer, I didn't understand the utility of it. You know, it's a common Christian thing to pray. It's like, that's the thing. You pray, you read your Bible, and you go to church. And so I went to church and I read my Bible, but I didn't pray. I didn't get it. And there's a couple of reasons I didn't get it. I'll just run through them real quick because I'm sure somebody else has thought something similar. But the first reason I didn't get it is whenever I would do it, it would feel like I was talking to a wall. So I'd go through my thoughts. Look at all these ducks. I'd go through all my thoughts, and I'd get to the end and I'd be bored, and I'd be like, I don't see any progress here. Like, I don't feel any closer. I don't feel like somebody was there. And so I just wouldn't do it anymore. And then I'd go to the Bible and I'd read the Bible, and it would give me something to think about, right? I'd have something to chew on. So reading the Bible was easier for me than praying, because at least I got something out of it. It didn't feel like I was, talking to a wall. Also, when it came to group settings, I didn't understand prayer. When someone would pray in a group, like before an event, before church started, or before the musicians went out on stage, they'd all get together and they'd pray. Everybody would say things like, we're doing this for the one person in the back room that needs it. Everybody just go out there and do your best. God's going to be out there on the stage with us. And then they'd all bow their heads and they'd say the exact same thing. We're doing this for the one person, God. If you can just give us the one person, and we know you're out there on the stage with us. And everybody's just going to go out there and do their best for you. And I'm like, all of that's true, but you just said that. Like, you just said that before you started praying. So what's the difference? And then, like, at small group or any kind of small group event, they'd take prayer requests. People are struggling with things, I understand, and people need help with things from God. And so they take small group prayer requests. And the group would pray for them throughout the week or at the end of the event. And I would think, like, God is God. He knows. And so is this like a popularity contest? Is my problem going to be fixed faster because of the amount of people that are praying for me? Like if I get 5 more people to pray for me, does that mean I ensure my chances? And so, like, this is a social game. When I didn't like that, because it was like, that's the world of business. And it seems very transactional, like, how popular can you be? Well, that's how successful you are. And I thought God inverted that. So the fact that I have to gain prayer requests seemed silly to me. So those are just like some of the reasons why I didn't see the utility in prayer. And I even explained it away, because I'm trying to understand. I even explained away prayer one time. This is so wrong. But like, so I'm a philosopher. I like reason. I like logic. And so I think all of the time. I am always thinking. It's just what I do. And so I convinced myself one time, funny enough, that if you think all of the time towards truth, put your mind on praiseworthy things, then you meet God where he's at. And so if I'm constantly asking for clarity and for truth and for reason, then I am wrestling with God. And if I am wrestling with God, then that means that I am technically praying. And No, that's not how prayer works. That's called thinking, and there's a difference. But leave it to the philosopher to take thinking and make it something that it's not. Okay, anyway, so what am I saying? I'm saying that I got caught up in the contract instead of the relationship. I had a boss-employee relationship with God. And so my day would look like, you give me what I should do, and I'll go do it. And, then I'd hold my hand out and be like, all right, pay me. Where's the blessings? And I would struggle with, what's the point of this whole Christian thing if I'm still littered with stress and anxiety and the weight of the world is heavy? It's like, you guys are dancing and worshiping and singing and praising and talking about joy and peace, and I'm over here struggling to just do anything. It's like I'm literally reading as much as I can, I'm changing as much as I can, I'm sacrificing as much as I can, and I'm stressed out of my mind. And you tell me to pray, and when I go to pray, it doesn't feel like anything's there. So what the heck is going on? And so I started writing about trust, intimacy, vulnerability, because it's I'm a philosopher. I like to explain things. I don't get things, usually I don't do it. I have to figure it out. And so trust became sharing of weight. That's what I define trust as. So you could think of sharing of weight like leaning on each other. When you trust something with your weight, you lean on it. So we all have things that we carry, the weight of the world, our desires, our worries, our responsibilities, things we'd like to do, things that we are scared of, and it's a lot of weight over time. It's hard to carry, and so when you trust somebody, you share some of that weight with them. So you could think of it like if you had to carry a couch. The couch is heavy and awkward, and you could probably do it by yourself, but do you want to? So probably not. You just want to stick someone else on the other end of the couch. And what happens is you go to trust somebody, and they let you down, and it hurts. You give them some of that weight, and it hurts. And that would be a good reason not to trust people anymore, because you're like, I trusted these people, they sucked, it was painful, I'm just going to do it all by myself. And that's not a good answer. That would be like trusting a chair with your weight, and one of the legs breaks out, and you fall, and you get butt hurt, and then you're like, that's it, I'm done, I'm not sitting in chairs anymore, I hate chairs. And that's fine, but then you stand for the rest of your life, and you get no rest. So, a lot of geese this morning, jeez. Check it out. So, a better alternative is to find another chair, right? You don't just give up chairs in general. So, same thing with people. It's like they let you down, you got butt hurt, and rightfully so, because people suck, but not all people suck. So instead of giving up on people entirely, you just find someone you can share the weight with. So that's what intimacy is when intimacy is like the elimination of all distance. So you are intimate in proportion to what you're responsible for. I'm going to have a different level of intimacy with my wife than I do with a stranger, and that's on purpose. I have voluntarily let her in. I have walls and guardrails and defense mechanisms that I put up out of safety for myself. And the idea is that when you're being vulnerable with somebody, you voluntarily let them through those guards, those defenses. You let them in. That's why when people don't do this, they call them closed off, or they're so far away. It's like, it's not a physical thing, it's like a metaphysical thing. You don't let somebody in. And so when you're being vulnerable, you voluntarily let them in. And you hope that they touch your wounds and bring healing instead of more hurt, more pain. And you share the weight with them. So that would be like, if trust is the noun, being vulnerable is the verb. So when you trust, you be vulnerable because you give them weight, you let them in to the emotional space. So now I'm thinking about all these prayer things, and my buddy Justin, he's a good guy. I was telling him all my concerns because he prays, and I'm over here overthinking everything, looking for answers. And he texted me, and the text, I'll paraphrase it, but the text was like, where 2 or 3 gather in my name, there I am. And the other part was like a multiplier, which is one person can bring 10,000 and two people can bring 20,000. So it's like the effectiveness. I don't know what's up with the geese today, but that's crazy. Shut up! Anyway, the effectiveness of one person just multiplied. You know, it's like the guy who sows. Well, if he has all the right ingredients, then he's gonna grow like 1,000 times what he was before. And so I was thinking about that because it really got my mind thinking about how that pertains to the stuff I was already thinking about, which is like vulnerability, trust, and intimacy. And I was like, you know, when my wife is upset and I come at her with solutions, that's not what she needs. She needs somebody to sit down and just be there with her and listen to her. She wants to feel seen and understood. And she wants to feel like someone is actually listening. Someone actually cares about the things that she cares about. And so it doesn't take advice. It takes empathy and understanding, right? So if I were to take that exact same mindset into prayer, what's happening is instead of looking for a solution, you share your concerns and the way you feel out of vulnerability, and you let God in. You invite God in to your emotional space, to your emotional living room. You let your defenses down. And he just sits there with you, and he sees you and he understands you. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. And then you could say in the group settings that, let's say that right before they go out on stage, the musicians gather together and they have a group prayer, and they invite God into the room. They say, God, you know, we know that if it's just the one, all that's true. But now God has been invited into the room. And in the small group, it's like prayer request. They are inviting God into the situation. It's like God's a gentleman. He's not going to force his way in. And I honestly think that the reason that I felt alone when I was praying was because I wasn't letting him in. I wasn't being vulnerable. I was doing philosophy at him. I wasn't talking about emotions or my personal life. I was calculating like I would on a piece of paper for a book directed at God, because I didn't understand that it was a relational thing. I didn't get it. I didn't understand relationships. I thought I was so like facts over feelings, solution oriented, that I had to do that with everyone, everywhere. And that doesn't, I don't know if you've ever tried that with a woman. It doesn't work. It's like, you can't just do that. Because what you're making them feel like, again, in the world of feelings, is that their problems are silly, stupid, and small, and they should get over it. And you don't want to make them feel that way, because why would you want your wife or your girlfriend to feel stupid, silly, and small? It's like the subjective does not work like the objective. It's people try to solve a subjective problem with an objective answer, and it doesn't work because it's a subjective problem. It has nothing to do with the objective world. It's internal, not external. You solve objective problems objectively. That's like saying, yeah, I'm utilitarian in business, but I'm not utilitarian with people, because people aren't tools, right? They're people. It's like, no, I will not sacrifice somebody for the sake of my own selfish gain. because that's a person. But I will sacrifice a freaking car because it's a car. It's not a person. It's like utilitarianism only goes as far as the objective world. And then you solve the subjective world with this subjective solution, which is like the dragon that just wants to be seen. There's this book, and the whole book is like, there's this dragon that shows up in this kid's room, and it's real small, and he just wants to be, seen, understood. And this kid pats it on the head, it wags its tail, and then the kid goes downstairs and he tells his mom, and he's like, hey, there's a dragon upstairs, and, like, that's weird. And the mom says, there's no such thing as a dragon. He's like, dude, I swear, there's a dragon right upstairs in my room. And she's like, no, there's no such thing as a dragon. So he goes back up there and he just acts like the dragon isn't real. And the dragon gets bigger. And throughout the rest of the book, excuse me, throughout the rest of the book, the dragon, they keep ignoring the dragon. The dragon gets so big that it literally is bigger than the house and takes off with it. And they're all like, what happened? And Billy, which is the kid's name, he's like, I swear there's a dragon right there. It literally took her house. And he pats that dragon on the head, and the dragon gets smaller. And that's what our problems are like on a subjective level. Does it make sense? No. The way you feel does not make sense. Not at an objective level. But should it be patted on the head? Absolutely. Because it makes sense to you subjectively. Like you feel a certain way on purpose. You're not dumb, you're not stupid, you're not small. You shouldn't just get over it. Like there's a reason that you feel the way that you feel. And to have someone sit down and listen to you and understand you and not just try to fix you is how you deal with a subjective problem. Because we are subjects, not objects. And so that's what prayer is. That's what I'm going to die on this hill now. I think I get it finally. I think God deals with us subjectively for subjective problems and objectively for objective problems. And to confuse the two is why I was so confused. It's a relationship. It's not a transaction. The relationship can be expressed through transaction, but to mistake the relationship for merely the transaction is to not understand relationship at all. And so, yeah, I'll be praying every morning from now on. I did it this morning, I did it yesterday, and I'll do it for the rest of my life because, again, I just get it now. I understand. I understand the utility. And I'm obviously going to write about it because this is a game changer. You got the big three. Kind of like in the gym, you got the big three that got squats, bench, and deadlift. Well, these are the big three in the Christian world. You got the Bible, you got church, and you got prayer. And I had 2 or 3. And now I got the third. I got the direct hotline to God himself. So how about that? Anyways, all right. I'm coming up on the end of my walk. See you guys soon.